what's one thing that you can do that's better than everyone else? Like, what's one thing you know more about than anyone else you know? Take that thing, raise your price point, and go do it. And I had this moment where I kind of did the math and started to work myself backwards and go, you know what? I can do this. And that was kind of my moment where he challenged me, and I just had no good reason to not do it anymore. I had set my fears and my expectations and did some math and was just like, yeah, you know what? I need to bet on me.
Hello, everyone. We are live and collect today with Corey Brown, the founder of buffaBRAND Marketing, a company that helps e-commerce brands grow across Amazon, Shopify, and Walmart with strategies that builds real, long-lasting results. Corey has spent, and I'm really happy to have him on today's show. Welcome, Corey. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you for having me. Excited.
Can you please tell us a bit about yourself and what you do?
Sure. So I actually do a bunch of different things, but I think the thing that I'm most well known for at this point is being the founder and CEO of buffaBRAND. So we are a big player in the e-commerce space, working with brands on Amazon, Walmart, Shopify. I do a number of different things with that. I focus on the consulting and coaching side of things and leading my team. And then I'm also, a keynote speaker and podcaster and property management as well, and a few other things that we can dive into. But we'll talk about all those.
All right. The property management was something new to me. So let's start with your founding story. So you spent like 10 plus years building private label brands before launching buffaBRAND in 2020. And I really find that time interesting because it was the mid-pandemic and
Mhm.
the e-commerce was probably exploding by then. What was the signal or moment that made you think that time was right for you to start your agency versus continuing to scale your own brands?
Yeah, just thinking back to COVID times is like, it's always difficult to even kind of go back to the mindset that we had back then, right? So just a different world at this point. So for me, remembering back to that time, I had actually began to found buffaBRAND, or I should say kind of reestablish buffaBRAND as an e-commerce service provider in the summer before COVID. And so I had put all this to paper. I had really built out a plan of what I thought I might want to do and what I was capable of, and kind of figuring out whether I wanted a team and some of the other aspects of it, and started to build the branding and the idea, the excitement in my own mind, kind of into the fall. I actually talked to a few of my then employees and pitched the idea to them, and they were fully on board as well. And so for me, that fall really was the moment. That was the signal for me of like, hey, this is the time. And truly, it came from a place that I didn't fully expect. It came from my mentor. I had a mentor who sat with me regularly at coffee shops and doing Zoom meetings, and just was very interested in trying to help me grow as a person and kind of shed some of the negative baggage that maybe I had from my younger years, and realize how skilled I was and realize how talented I was, and help me to kind of figure out my own ascendancy. And he had a moment where he said, like, nothing's going to change if you don't go change it. What's one thing that you can do that's better than everyone else? Like, what's one thing you know more about than anyone else you know? Take that thing, raise your price point, and go do it.
Wow.
And I had this moment where I kind of did the math backwards of like, hey, this is how much money I'm making. This is what my family needs. And started to work myself backwards and go, you know what? I can do this. And that was kind of my moment where he challenged me, and I just had no good reason to not do it anymore. I had set my fears and my expectations and did some math and was just like, yeah, you know what? I need to bet on me. And so I did. And luckily a few other people did too, that came with me and started this, because I could not have done it without them.
Wow.
And proud to say, 6 years later, here we are.
Wow, wow, wow. That's such an interesting story. And from what you said, it's really important then to have always people by your side, somebody like a mentor who pushes you to go forth. And as you said, you had no good reason not to do it. So that was a really great distinction.
Yeah. And I think one of the reasons I found I'm a very risk averse person, right? Like, so I grew up in poverty, extreme poverty. And so for me, building something new, launching a new project, sinking my money into something and not knowing whether I'd have a paycheck next week has never been a part of my family, my friends, my world, right? And
Yeah.
it kind of took two things. One, Tim Ferriss always, talks about fear setting and setting your expectations. Like, what if every single thing went wrong, and then another thing, and then another thing, and I kind of got to the point where I did that experiment. I went, what if everything went wrong? What's the worst thing that's going to happen? And I got to the point where I'm like, I sleep on someone's couch for a month and I figure it out and I take the job I still have that I have right now. Like if that's my worst case scenario, then there's
Yeah.
no reason to not take a risk. And it's kind of a crazy thing to do, but also you do need people around you who can encourage you and who can see past it, right? Like I always looked at it as like coming from poverty, being like, hey, I can't do this. That's for them.
Yeah.
That's for that type of person. That's for people that run in these circles. Well, once I have enough money, I'll do this thing.
Uh,
And then you start to realize that the people who have enough money are people who just dove straight in to begin with. And I think my mentor really helped open my eyes to that and kind of pushed me to say, actually, those people are no better than you. They're no more skilled than you. Yeah, maybe they have the ability to have they have more of a safety net than you do, but that
yeah.
just gives you twice as much reason to be hungry and go after it. And so it
Mhm.
took a couple of those things to kind of go, okay, yeah, I can do this. And it pushed me past my threshold of being so risk averse that I was ready to go.
Yeah. Um, Take me back to that moment, because a lot of founders nowadays starts their companies alone, most of the time, and then as they scale on or an amount of revenue keeps coming per month, they then involve other people in it. But for you, it was different. You, as you mentioned, you started with a few friends, right?
Yeah, so I had a couple of my employees at my previous team that I had kind of identified as people who maybe wanted more, who were looking to build more, who were interested in going beyond. Essentially, found the people who no longer fit into the system that we were in and we're looking to grow out of it. And I
Wow.
identified them, had private conversations, and essentially was like, hey, I'm going to bring you on. And for me, this is actually where I diverted from what my mentor was like, just start a consultancy. Just do what you do, raise your wage, work fewer hours, and so for me that I was like, yes, that's amazing. However, I started to think through to the end and go, okay, now I'm a consultant. I'm going to tell them that they need graphics. I'm going to tell them that they need ads. I'm going to tell them that they need account support. Who's going to do it? And I had that moment where I was like, who's going to do it? Like, who am I going to be suggesting? Why wouldn't I bring my own people with me and supply those as an option for those services, right? Like, I know I'm going to be recommending this type of service. Why not build it myself?
Yeah.
And I can say that a couple of things. One, I'm really glad I did because I think it made the journey a bit more interesting. I think it made us more robust right away.
Uh-huh.
It definitely was not the most cost effective. That's one thing. Like looking back, I could have definitely either outsourced or I could have used contractors or I could have kept the consultancy just to myself and then slowly added things on once I was more financially stable. I don't really regret it because of the people that I brought along and what happened in their journey. I can say now, like looking back, I can be like, okay, well, actually, I'm really proud of what we did. But that's definitely an aspect of it that if I could go back, one thing I would change if I could go back though, is I would have looked for at least one true partner. Because I brought team members, but I founded this by myself. Like as much as I founded that knowing that I would hire them, I didn't have other founders.
Yeah.
And that is for me if I was ever to found something new, I will never found something new completely by myself again. Um, in this field because there are so many different people with different talent types. And
Yeah.
I have my own weaknesses and my own blind spots. And now I realize like if I could go back, I would have built it with somebody who knows how to build tech, right?
Uh-huh.
Or somebody who has access to capital, or someone who's really, really good at sales.
Uh-huh.
Kind of start to build out things that I'm not great at. So that's one thing. If I could go back, that I would definitely have stayed away from being maybe a solopreneur and kind of moved more towards having a true founder partner.
Yeah. And what would have changed if you started with the founding partner? What would have changed?
Focus.
Focus.
The biggest
Wow.
thing that would change is focus. I can tell you this right now. My my entire time running this company, I have been wearing so many hats. And I am not an accountant. I am not an HR specialist. I am not truly a salesperson.
Yeah.
Um, I'm I do all those things and I do all of them fairly well. The accounting is questionable, solid but questionable. I think that there are definitely some aspects where I look at it and go, if I had someone who could guide me and truly be fully invested on this. The other thing is just like mental capacity.
Yeah.
Like when everything stops with you, right? The buck always stops with you. If there's an issue, I'm the only one who I'm going to have to fix it at the end of the day. That's a
Yeah.
mental toll that I don't think enough people realize, that when you start to have a team of 5, 6, 7 people and you're the person that everyone ends up with at when the big issues hit, it would have been really great to have an additional founder where I could split that and say, hey, you know what? Let's talk this through.
Yeah.
When
Right.
you're a solopreneur, there's nobody to talk to. I'm talking to my wife at the kitchen table. And I'm fortunate because she's a CEO of her business too. So like different
Oh,
industries, but
okay.
we're able to have some of those conversations. But
Yeah.
literally it's just the two of us like just throwing our stress at each other. And it would have been great to have a founder for sure.
Yeah, yeah, and I also relate to that story, your story as well, because when I started my business as well, I was doing it alone, and I was also wearing a lot of hats at the same time, having a lot of doubts. Where should I position myself here and there? But then as times goes on, I got to meet a person who is really good in tech, has a lot of experience in it. So we talked about my company and where I aspire it to be. So it was like, oh, that's a really good thing. Maybe you could do this. Maybe you could position yourself as this. So since then, my focus was straight in. And whenever I am doing something, I know that, oh, this is where I'm going. Just because I had a partner with me who was also really experienced in it and was, willing to go with me and help me along the way. So I advocate for that as well, that whenever you are starting, you should start with someone else. The journey would be longer than it is, to be honest.
Yeah. In addition to that, the working to see if you can have a mentor or a board or someone that you can bounce ideas off of. Cause I think it's really incredibly helpful to talk to people who are not in your business and or even in your industry, but they understand business as a whole. The amount of conversations that I've had with really hyper intelligent humans who have nothing to do with my industry, when they look at what I've got going on, they see it so straightforward because they don't see all the hangups. They don't see the reason you can't do X and you can't do Y or should do Z. It's like they just look at it and go, well, what if you did this? And they ask those types of questions and you're like, well, no, no, no. Actually, we could do that. And so I try to bring that from a business consultant standpoint, but sometimes it's really helpful to have someone who's completely outside of the box just to look at it and simplify and ask you the questions you need to be asking yourself.
Mhm. Yeah. Let's talk about the work of scaling. Because you went from being the person you are doing the work, that's you are building brands and probably running the campaigns, and now you are leading a team that does that work. And I believe that transition breaks a lot of founders. Keywords, what was the hardest thing you had to let go of, or the first role you really had to step back from, and how did you do it?
So yeah, it's operations. So I am such an operator. Um, and being, like I said, wearing all those hats, you kind of can't do any and all things. But in the early days, I was the person that was doing all of the sales, all of the operations, all the onboarding, every aspect of what actually
Yeah.
happened. I had an advertising person and I had someone who did graphics, right? But I was doing everything that moved because I said for it to move. And there
Mm,
became a point where I couldn't do that anymore and lead the company. And in a lot of ways, leading the company can be like a really loose terminology, right? Like you have to be thinking ahead. Well, it's really hard to think ahead and build ahead when you're operating in today. So, and I want people to think about that, right? Like,
yeah.
because I think all too often we all do this. We exist today, we operate all day long, and we don't think enough about not tomorrow, but a month from now and 6 months from now. And I'm the type of person that I plan and plan and plan. Like everything is in my, is in my planner. So it was really hard for me to let go of that operational side and know that things are still
Yeah.
going to get done while looking forward. But I knew that there was a definitive bottleneck at a certain point where I said, I am causing my own issues by trying to stay on top of what's happening day to day. I need to hand this off and let other people own it. And I still advise it, but there are people within my team that essentially the operations happen and I try to move it in the right direction, but I don't worry about individual projects the way that I used to. And that was a huge unlock for our company. And honestly, it's hard to admit this, but it took me probably a couple of years to actually fully let go of it.
Oh,
And that,
wow.
yeah. And that could be partially because we have a more boutique agency, so we're a little bit smaller. So I have a lot of very personal relationships with the clients. So they come to me, they kind of wrote me back in, but
Yeah.
starting to set, if I could give people advice, I would say the number one thing to do is once you start to build those relationships is know when to like hand it off and be clear that you've handed it off. You can keep the relationship, but you
Yeah.
hand the operations off and don't answer anything. Like defer everything to your team is great. Let them be great. Get out of the
Mm,
way.
yeah. Yeah. And yeah, most founders struggle with that same problem as well. And I think what makes letting go so hard is that the things you were best at become the things you are least willing to delegate. And
Yeah,
you
100%.
I believe you built your reputation on execution quality. So handling such tasks off feels risky sometimes.
And so like my entire identity of finding success was about organization and execution, right? Like I'm the
Mm,
person, I'm relentless and I'm organized as hell. So
yeah.
I am gonna if you ask me a question in a meeting, if I'm on your team, I'm gonna know exactly what's going on and be able to talk and getting to a point where you're like, that's my bread and butter, that's what I make my living on, and then having to be like, actually now I have to do all of these other things and kind of let that go is so hard because I am very particular about so many things and having to let other people kind of do it their way and still trusting in it is tough. And then also like keeping your brand, right? Like I built my brand on the way I work. So it's like
Mm,
I need them to do enough of it to be representative of what we have to do as a team. But also you have to give people the independence to kind of handle it on their own. If there's somebody who loves putting smiley faces and exclamation points and being fun in an email, like maybe that's not your style, but let them do what they do because people love that personality when it comes through.
yeah, that's very true. I'm curious, when you stepped back from that operation role, did you replace yourself with one person or did you have to redesign how that work got to be done entirely?
So in an ideal world, I would be able to replace myself with one person in that role. That is not how it played out at my current company. That we kind of use a committee to do a lot of that. I do have one primary person that handles a lot of the operations, but as a smaller team, everyone kind of has their touch points. So I've allowed everyone to kind of utilize their own skill sets on that.
Oh, okay, okay. And yeah, a lot of founders, I think a lot of founders' biggest challenge sometimes isn't strategy as well. Is that they are still deeply rooted in the things they are really good in, that they find it difficult to, handle it to someone else. They feel it's risky. So you've scaled to a team of account managers, strategists, and creatives. How did you build that trust without either micromanaging yourself into burnout or letting things slip?
Yeah, so for me, it definitely took some time, especially with a lot of those personal relationships that you start early days agency life. Like every client is your lifeblood. So I had a lot of really good personal relationships. So handing those off is tough too because the clients don't actually want to work with other people, right? You have to kind of build that trust side
Oh
by
yeah.
side and be able to do that. So that was definitely a hard aspect of it. I'm fortunate. Everyone on my team has been with me for, between this business and previous for like 3 to 10 years. So at this point, it's really easy for me to do that, right? It's really easy because I don't have any junior employees that maybe, would drop the ball once in a while. Like I know what I have with all my people and we have a really good it's like any team that plays together for a long time in any sport, right? Like you get to know where everyone's going to be, how they're going to react, like all the things that you kind of start to just have this orchestra that just flows, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
And yeah, so that's been really lovely, and I think that is part of the strength of why I'm able to finally take that step back and allow them to scale up and do the things that they do and kind of remove myself. And honestly, it's been a huge game changer. This year is going to be our biggest year by far, and I think it's just because I've just really finally taken that step out and said, you know what, I have to delegate. But it goes back to that risk mitigation that I talked about at the beginning.
Yeah.
Like, if I never let anything go, I know it's never going to fail, right? Like I'm going to always be on it, on it, on it. But it's also not going to grow. And I think
Yeah.
that's the part. It's like you're actually strangling the thing that you need to breathe. And so often it's just like you just need to put your trust in the people and step back and let them do what
Yeah.
they're going to do.
Yeah, exactly. Because a lot of founders hire people, but they don't actually let the people do the jobs on their own. So the teams never develop judgment, and the founder and the company gets stuck. And the one who break out of that pattern usually do things. They get very clear on what quality actually means in measurable terms, and they accept that the people who can do it for them to actually drive that role, so that the team wouldn't feel stuck at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I think one other thing for me is like you hear this saying all the time, like when you look at things about entrepreneurs or whatnot, it's like no employee is ever going to work the way you do, right? Like
Yeah.
no one's ever, and nor should they, right? Like unless they're an equity partner, they shouldn't work the same way. If you're not outworking them, you're doing something wrong. First off, but also like I hear that all the time, like no one's gonna ever work, and it took me a really long time to just go, okay, yeah, but that's okay. It's okay that they're not going to work the exact same because working at 80 or 90% of what I do is still really, really good. And we can still do that at scale.
Yeah.
So, fellow entrepreneurs, like when you're starting to think that through, it's like, yeah, they're not going to do it quite as good as you. They're not going to work quite as hard, quite as late, all those different things.
Yeah.
No one's going to work in your business the way that you're going to work in your business. And that's okay is the rest of that statement. No one ever adds that last part. And that's okay.
All right. All right. So yeah, right now you are an official trusted service provider, partner with Amazon, Walmart, and Shopify, which,
Mhm.
which I think signals a pretty high bar operationally and strategically for your company. What was the hardest part of getting to that status? And more importantly, what has it unlocked for you and your client because you have it?
Yeah, so getting the status for that for the different marketplaces is honestly, it's not a very high bar. If I'm being totally transparent, it's not that difficult to get those verifications if you're doing the right things and if you're working with those marketplaces and their sellers regularly. Which is it's kind of a double-edged sword, right? It's not that hard to get. So the question is, why are sellers still working with people who are not verified?
Yeah,
And
all
that's
right.
something that I constantly come back to. So, what does it get us? What does it do for us? There's a number of different things, and it's platform by platform. So, if I kind of went in order of importance for us, like on the Amazon side, being a verified partner, there's definitely specific events. We have specific contacts. We have the ability to onboard people faster and with more incentives and give them way, way more support than they're able to get on their own. So that is pretty strong. Walmart, same sort of thing. They've set up a lot of things that kind of mirror what Amazon's got going on, which is a smart move, quite honestly,
Yeah.
and giving people support. Shopify is a little more self-service, so that one's not as big of a deal. It's more just more or less like, are you capable of building out on Shopify? Um, I look at it as this. What it should do is separate high quality, long-term service providers from freelancers, snake oil salesmen, people who are doing not the right things all the time or are not qualified to be doing these tasks.
Yeah.
And I don't think that it actually does that enough, in my opinion. I don't think there's enough separation because I actually did a poll recently on LinkedIn about this exact thing. Like, do most people even know that the verified providers exist?
Yeah.
And the strong answer is like, actually, most people don't even realize that that is something that their agency should have or the service provider should have. So that would be another thing that I would encourage anyone who's listening to, like, if you're going to work with anyone, probably check out their credentials. Check out to see who they're verified with, because at minimum, they should be verified with the portals, with the marketplaces that they're working on. And if they're not, ask yourself why.
Yeah. Oh, okay. And those who are not verified, I'm curious if they provide an efficient resource for the people they work with versus the verified ones.
So, I mean, this is one of those things, like, I'm going to give you the old consultant answer. It depends. So there are people that are non-verified who are absolutely fantastic service providers. And there are people who are verified who are not that fantastic. So it is not a true bar that tells you exactly what's good and bad. Like, right? Like, regardless of credentials, there's always going to be good and bad. There's always going to be stratification within service providers or any industry. I would say more it's more a propensity thing. Like, those that are verified have a higher likelihood of being successful, high quality outfits that you want to work with. Those that
Yeah.
are not are far less likely to be that. But also, it's not just about the verification of those. Like, that's one starting point, but then you can also look at their overall social presences and things of that nature too, to get a feel for maybe why they are or are not a part of the verified
Wow.
process.
All right. All right. Loud and clear. Curious, what have you learned in the industry lately that you are yet to implement in your business?
Hmm. I think AI is the answer there.
Uh,
So, and I don't mean that we haven't implemented it. I mean that we haven't fully implemented it, because I am cautious. And I
oh,
know this is, you asked industry, but I think e-commerce has a lot of AI capabilities. Um, building out listings, building out creatives, many other operational tools that I think are strong. As of right now, I have taken a wait and see approach with a lot of what we've got going on with AI, just because it doesn't feel super authentic. And
yeah.
I am honestly authenticity above everything else when it comes to my brand, my business's brand, the brands that we represent. And I think that there is a huge drop off in authenticity and quality when you start to use AI, pretty much anything.
Yeah.
And we're already seeing pretty dramatic pushback on it. Now we've seen ads on AI just being launched. So there's going to be a lot of changes over the next year. And honestly, we're going to be continuing to implement some AI on the operational side. But I would say in other aspects, we are yet to really dive fully into it as we kind of see how it plays out and what advantages we can get from it.
Oh, okay. Okay. That's really clean. And speaking of AI and authenticity, which part of the uh, e-commerce hook does it lose its authenticity?
For AI, for me, it's people who are utilizing it to push agenda. So there's really, really kind of two aspects: really, really poor image creation, really redundant creation of images. That I just am not a huge, huge fan of. There's aspects within the creative process that it makes better, but I think if AI is your creative process, then you do not have a creative process,
Yeah, exactly.
right?
That's right.
You have commoditization.
Mhm.
So that's been really big. And then honestly, for a lot of people, like influencers, people you follow, different thought leaders within a space, if every post that they make is AI driven, from the write up to the comments to the way they engage, everything is AI all the time. And cool, you're really smart. You built out this awesome thing, that this tool that does so many things for you. But at no point are you having a real conversation with anyone. And they're not having a real conversation with you. You're just gamifying it, utilizing automation and AI. And we're seeing it in our emails, we're seeing it on social and in messaging. And it's already becoming a problem. It's already making certain platforms unusable, and it's going to continue as well. So we'll kind of see how it plays out.
Yeah, and I always say before, I mean, anyone implements AI in their business or in their project, they should be a master of the craft themselves before they actually use AI in the process. Else, it will be like giving a gun to a child. It can be dangerous.
Of course, yeah, it's absolutely. I believe in the craft as well. So I think if you know exactly what you're doing, and then you are utilizing AI to create shortcuts within that, to reduce redundancies and do some of the smaller tasks to just speed up the thing you're already very good at, that's the sweet spot for me right now. And that's
Yeah,
what we are doing. It's the stuff outside of that where you're trying to replace, you see the post all the time on LinkedIn. You'll see a post like, I replaced my entire marketing department with this prompt, or like we built this entire brand's creative output in 15 minutes on this AI. And it's like, no, you didn't. Like those are just blatant lies
yeah.
that
I
that
usually see those posts on LinkedIn. Like always, when I go to LinkedIn, somebody has built something with AI within a few minutes.
it's always, isn't it amazing what people can do in 15 minutes? I was like, uh, eh, more power to them. I think they're pushing things that don't make a heck of a lot of sense, but yeah, there's great tools out there. But yeah, I think you hit it right on there with, be a master of your craft first, and then use it to speed that up or to make it even a little bit better. I think that to fine
Exactly.
tune it, that's the magic.
Exactly. Exactly. What does success look like for buffaBRAND in the next 3 to 5 years?
Oof, that's a big question. Considering the age of my agency and what we've had and going through an acquisition last year, I actually don't know. I don't know what the next chapter looks like exactly for buffaBRAND. I think moving towards working with larger brands is definitely something that we're super interested in, and going more all in. So traditionally, we've been very a la carte with people, and we will work with brands along the way as they scale up. And what we found the most fun thing to do, and the most rewarding for all parties thing to do, is to actually be working with brands that are doing, more significant figures, that we can take a more all in approach. I love the idea of being super invested in a brand, right?
Yeah.
Not, hey, we have got a few hours of management, we've got a few hours of PPC, we do a little create. No, I want to run every account like it's my own brand. And when I get to do that, and when my team gets to do that, the energy in the room, whether it's virtual or in person here, is completely flipped. So
Yeah.
for me, that's probably the next step, is really focusing and doubling down on brands like that. So we have a handful of brands in our portfolio that we're working with in that capacity. And I just see the excitement and the electricity come back to people when we're
Wow.
doing that. So my thinking is, if we're working with, 5 or 10 brands, or, that we're all in
Yeah.
on, that's the magic. And I think that brings the best results for everybody involved, for our partners, because we can just really, really dive into the minutia and just do what we do best, with no limitations. And the upside is great for everyone. So that's where we're going to be heading towards.
Wow. Wow. Buffer brand to the world, yo. Do you have any last remarks for our audience?
Yeah, honestly, one of the biggest things I always say is like success is not linear. So
Mm.
if you think that you're putting in the work today and tomorrow and the next day and the next day and things just aren't popping for you, keep your head down and keep going after the next day and the next day because things will come back around. The opportunities that show up in my inbox now out of nowhere are happening because I planted seeds for being consistently myself and
Yeah.
consistently showing up and solving problems for people for the last 6 years. And that is where the magic starts to compound. So, stay with it and solve problems and take care of people.
Wow, wow, that's really powerful. Success is not linear. The mantra for today.
That's it.
Success is not linear. Wow. And in case anybody wants to reach out to you, where can they get you?
Not many places. Yeah. So I'm not big on social media except for LinkedIn. So you
Oh,
can hit me
okay.
up on LinkedIn, CB buffaBRAND. And I'm pretty active on there. If you want to reach out, message me. I am very likely to answer on a regular basis. So hit me there.
All right, all right. So, guys, I'll put in Corey's LinkedIn the description below and the website link for buffaBRAND as well. So, you will definitely want to check them out. So, that will be a wrap for today. I hope and believe you enjoyed today's conversation. Thank you so much, Corey, as well, for having time with me. It was such a valuable conversation, and I cherish your insight. A mastermind indeed. Thank you very much for having time with me, Corey.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it. Cheers.
All right. So, guys, that's it for today. Remember, we are here to learn and grow as a community. I'll see you on the next episode. Bye.